I introduced the Bipartisan State of Men's Health Act in February. My God, having a stroke at 30 has become much more common than it's ever been before. I can take you to parts of my district where there are dialysis centers next door to each other like McDonald's and Burger King.
They're the ones committing suicide. They're the ones who aren't holding jobs. They're the ones who are not finishing college. They're the ones who are leaving their families. You've got to start there.
Not only is it harmful to us as individuals, it's also a strain on the system itself. Because the first time I'm seeing a doctor is in the emergency room, I'm costing exponentially more money for curative care than I am for preventive care. As men, we fall way short. We tough it out. We ignore it. Oftentimes, we wait until things have gone too far. Good legislation often takes years to pass. Bad legislation passes really fast. When I was in the state Senate, I was the author of the bill that ultimately created the Office of Women's Health.
Congressman, what do you see the costs are to society of delaying care for men and treating them reactively?
The loss of life, the loss of dad, uncle, brother.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of our show, Talk with Turek. My name is Rob Clyde, and this is Dr. Paul Turek. Hello,
How are
Paul.
you, Rob?
Good. How was surgery this morning?
Good.
That's
Good.
the only answer you're allowed to say on this podcast. Well, listen, we're going to get right to it today. Our time is limited. As you can see, we're all remote today, and I'm here in our usual studio. You're at your office. And we're about to introduce our guest, who is U.S. Representative Turek Carter. The congressman represents Louisiana's 2nd Congressional District, and he is the primary sponsor of the State of Men's Health Act. And today we're going to talk about the possibilities of what that bill can do for men in America. Congressman, welcome to Talk with Turek.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here with you on a time when these discussions are not getting nearly the amount of attention that they deserve when we talk about healthcare, period. But we dive a little deeper into men's health, whether it be physical or mental or emotional. We don't talk about it enough. I'm proud to serve in the United States Congress, to serve as the chair of the Men's Health Caucus, along with my co-chair, Representative Rich McCormick. Proud that this is a bipartisan effort to highlight and to emphasize the importance of awareness, prevention, advocacy, and funding for healthcare. As men, we fall way short. Our counterparts, our sisters, because of the complexities of their bodies, are accustomed to having regular checkups from their earliest age. Men, on the other hand, we've been told since our earliest beginning, suck it up. Big boys don't cry. Come on, you can handle it, you know? And so we think we're supposed to endure pain. We're supposed to ignore the signals of our body that indicate something's wrong. And so we tough it out. We ignore it. Oftentimes we wait until things have gone too far. Prostate cancer that can be fixed if caught in time. That nagging pain in your arm, which is indicating that maybe you are a candidate for a stroke or a heart attack. That headache that won't go away. You know, I liken it to people driving their fancy BMWs, Mercedes, SUVs, and the check engine light comes on. Man, they pull that thing over right away because they don't want to blow a gasket. They don't want to ruin that expensive car. But when the check engine light in their bodies go on, come on, they ignore it. They push through. They big boy don't cry it. They toughen it out. And then they become the first visit to a doctor is not during the time for a checkup or preventive care, but when there's the greatest strain on the healthcare system in an emergency room.
Absolutely. You just summarized everything that I see in medicine. And a check engine light, I'm a car guy, is a great analogy. But I would also say that we don't even know some of the lights Right. So we don't even know what the check engine lights are, but we're getting there, especially with young men, because that's where you'd like to get them early on. But an Office of Men's Health would be such a move to get this stuff sorted out because it would coordinate. So we don't have a GUI gynecologist for men. Right. I'm
right.
sort of one of the first generations of them to take care of young men, but there's issues there. Even Vivek Murthy, when he was with in the Obama administration, put out it's a mental health crisis. It's really among young men. I mean, they're the ones committing suicide. They're the ones who aren't holding jobs. They're the ones who are not finishing college. They're the ones who are leaving their families. You've got to start there. These check lights, we need more of them, and we need to pay attention to them. And I'm hoping your movement does this.
I want to go ahead and just set a context for our listeners because you both mentioned it. There is an Office of Women's Health, correct? In 1992, I believe, right? We opened this as there's an issue for women's health. We need to focus on it. We need to everybody come together and start this office. And that's all we're asking. And what I've learned from Paul, Congressman, is that our bodies are pretty complex too. And when it comes to we focus on sexuality and fertility here on this show, and that's where a lot of those complexities come in. And so that's the reason for this show, and we fully support this bill and this conversation. One question I want to go ahead and start with is, and maybe Paul, this is, you can help us identify, what are the 5 categories right now of men's health that we're talking about? You mentioned prostate cancer already.
Yeah, I mean, I was sensing it was prostate cancer, colon cancer, because the numbers around those cancers are terrible for men. Like the Congressman mentioned, prostate cancer is being delayed. Colon cancer, men don't show up for their screenings. Women do, men don't.
Cardiovascular, of course.
Cardiovascular risk. So men are twice as likely to die of a cardiovascular event than women are. And there's signs of that are missed.
Unchecked high blood pressure. In my district alone, I can take you to parts of my district where there are dialysis centers next door to each other, like McDonald's and Burger King. In one part of my district, there are 4 within a walking distance.
Wow.
4. What does that say about our health when dialysis centers are popping up like fast food restaurants? It says a lot. Or I can walk you through parts of my district or parts of anywhere USA and see a young man dragging half of his body, walking, the victim of an evident stroke because they have gone without checking their blood pressure. We have, particularly here in the South, man, we like fried food, spicy stuff, and things that are rich in cholesterol and processed. And so, but if you're enjoying all of that wonderful food and you're not exercising, dieting, and taking medicine, you are a perfect candidate for a stroke. And it happens every day. And I can take you right now, I can jump in the car and probably within 20 minutes of a drive, I can take you somewhere where you're going to see somebody that fits that category. Or I can take you to a dialysis center where there's 1, 2, 3, 4 within a walking distance. What does that say about our unchecked illnesses? And I think those go into the category of what Dr. Turek is talking about. Some are very evident. Some you would think, oh, why?
Yeah, I think the mental health one is one of those too.
The 4th and 5th are diabetes and then mental health, which I'm really glad that was added into the bill to talk about. I mean, I guess the way it works is the general office, accounting office is going to ask for a study on these areas and then structure a men's health system to sort of just figure out the whole epidemiology.
I'll give you the genesis. I introduced the Bipartisan State of Men's Health Act in February. Proud to have my Republican colleague, who happens to be a medical doctor, Representative Greg Murphy, who's a Republican from North Carolina, who has joined me in this effort. The bill will require the U.S. Government Accountability Office to conduct a study on the state of men's health in the United States and issue a report to Congress on its results, including health disparities experienced by men. It would also require the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to create an Office of Men's Health and submit a report to Congress following the creation of the office, detailing its findings on men's health recommendations to improve the outcomes of men. We know that we miss checkups. We know that we don't go to the doctor. We know that not only is it harmful to us as individuals, it's also a strain on the system itself. Because the first time I'm seeing a doctor is in the emergency room, I'm costing exponentially more money for curative care than I am for preventive care. When I was in the state Senate, I was the author of the bill that ultimately created the Office of Women's Health, the first ever in the state of Louisiana. And now in Louisiana, I'm proud to say we have an office fully funded and stood up Office of Women's Health. And so when I introduced this bill to create the Office of Men's Health, people say, wait a minute, what are you doing? I said, well, women's health obviously is very important, hence the fact that I authored legislation that ultimately became the Office of Women's Health. But men's health is equally as important and doesn't get nearly the amount of attention, largely because we're knuckleheads.
Yeah.
Because we don't go to the doctor. Because our moms didn't take us, our dads didn't take us to the doctor as our little sisters went.
Right.
And because of the endemic issue of us being macho and nothing can hurt us because we were taught big boys don't cry.
So, Congressman, what do you see the costs are to society of delaying care for men and treating them reactively?
Too much to numerically measure, but I will tell you from a almost every other matrix, the loss of life, the loss of dad, uncle, brother, the challenges of healthcare that's already diminishing and becoming more and more unavailable to the average everyday American, costing a lot more when the first time I see you, or I'm not a doctor, the first time you see someone is in the emergency room. And now that problem has been expanded to the point that now we're maintaining what could have been stopped a long time ago, which we already know. The cost differential between curative care and preventive care is through the roof. So the cost to society, people are dying far sooner than they should. People are living with ailments that they shouldn't have to live with. Pharmaceutical companies are making grand theft larceny because they are enjoying the benefits of people taking 20 pills a day, from high blood pressure to diabetes or insulin or cholesterol or this, that, or the other, just to maintain. We have a very sick society. We're a very sick society. And unfortunately, we also have a very challenged society from a mental standpoint, and we saw that manifest itself during COVID more than any other time. I suspect that going all the way back 20, 30 years now, when we started limiting the dollars we were allocating for mental health in schools and organizations and hospitals and clinics, now we're seeing the manifestation of people shadowboxing and talking to themselves on the side of the road. And your temptation is to say, that person who's asking for $1, you bum, get a job. No, you're just going to go get crack. That all may be true. But what is also true is they're the product of a failed system. Product of people that needed mental health and didn't get it. Those people oftentimes that are on that street corner asking for $1, and maybe they're going to go run a bottle of wine. Maybe they are going to go get some crack. And I'm not justifying it because those are obviously ill things, but put it in context of what they're dealing with. Sometimes that hit on the crack pipe or that sip of wine is the only thing that silences those voices in their head for a moment to feel normal. If you are experiencing these challenges in your world and you have no one to talk to, you have no family, you have access to medical care, how many people are out there hearing voices? And the only thing that silences it is a drug that's not prescribed by a doctor.
It's interesting, Congressman. A colleague of mine named Dr. Eduardo Donjon made a short documentary movie called Fog Film about San Francisco, and he spent a day a month with his black bag going to a homeless in San Francisco and taking care of them. And as he did this for a couple of years, he realized that there is a lot of mental illness there, and that's not well treated. But there's also people who just had a bad spot in an expensive city and landed there and can't get out, and they're educated people who are in a spot. And it's like and the point was, we're human beings. We need to take care of each other. And I looked at things differently after that. I started, when someone looked at me, I looked at them and I said, how can I help you? And you realize they have an answer for you. And not all of them are rough and tumble and psychiatrically ill, but some of them have real stories. And this documentary goes over it. And it's like, we're human beings. There are brothers, there are sisters. What are we doing here? Why is the system neglecting this?
I would like to jump in here and also say that my wife would really love for there to be an Office of Men's Health, right? Like the women in our lives, they want us to stay around. It's great that they have their own office and their own. So would you both say that this is really an attention play here to get the attention of men and Americans and to say men are a people too? And then I'm going to go ahead and ask this question to the congressman. Is this a bipartisan initiative? Do you have friends on the other side that recognize the same thing that we're talking about today?
Yeah. I'm very happy that it is. Congressman Murphy is a Republican. Greg Murphy is a medical doctor who is my partner in justice on this bill. Rich McCormick, who is also a Republican, who is my co-chair of the Men's Health Caucus, recognize that this is not a black or white issue. This is not a Republican or Democratic issue. This is an issue of equality at its highest level.
Right.
Because heart attack doesn't recognize zip code, doesn't recognize race, doesn't recognize party. Cancer certainly doesn't recognize how much money you have in your checking account, what your party affiliation is, where you live, how wealthy you are. Hey, man, it's an equal opportunity stunner.
That's right.
And so,
That's right.
And if it means getting your attention, that certainly is one component. An attention getter is certainly one component, to answer your earlier question. But it's an attention getter on steroids, because there's a follow-up component to it. We not only want to get your attention, we want to get you access to health care. We want to get you access to information. We want to get you access to prevention, because therein lies the formula for success, that your wife gets to keep you around a little bit longer, that your children, if you have them, get to keep dad around a little bit longer. Your significant other gets to keep you around a little bit longer. All of the components of family is important, and are pretty damn important in that formula. Women are pretty damn important in that formula. We all are important in that formula. But when you take one of us out of the formula, you see the devastation it causes.
So one thing I want to tell people is this is a 30-year process. We've been trying to get an Office of Men's Health in this country for 30 years. Ironically, Congressman Payne, who was carrying the torch for this before you did, passed away from diabetes.
Which is one of the priorities of the new bill.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Terribly ironic.
Did you know him, Congressman?
I did. I served with him, considered him a dear friend. We worked on several bills together. We served on committee together, sat only a few seats apart. I was honored when his chief of staff, when he was very ill, asked if I would start looking at his requests, measures and things that he was working on. And then when ultimately he passed, it was shared with me that he had asked that they entrust his work product to me to carry the ball forward. So I'm very honored. It is my shoulders are not hardly big enough to do what he was doing. I'm grateful to have other members who have joined me in this effort. But Donald Payne championed this legislation for years. And was a very open critic of the system, and often referred to himself as the least healthiest member of Congress.
Wow.
He was battling a lot of issues, cancer, diabetes. I mean, I'm not violating any HIPAA regulations. This is all a part of his public commentary. So, but his ailments were very, very public. He spoke of them often.
What are we missing here, guys? I'm sorry, but what are we missing? Why is it so hard to get this bill passed? Or
I was going to ask Congressman, it's died in committee so many times over the last 30 years, maybe 9 times. And I feel there's a critical mass, there's bipartisan, but what killed it in the past?
Displaced priorities. Displaced priorities. I don't think anyone intellectually disagrees with anything that we're talking about.
Exactly.
But it becomes displaced priorities. And my position is, and has always been, you can only kick the can down the road for so long. And for those who call themselves fiscal hawks, who don't want to spend money, pay me now or pay me a lot more later. Mm-hmm. And that's the argument I make in committee hearings. That's the argument I make in caucus meetings. That's the argument I make on forums like this, and I'll continue to make. Listen, we've got to continue to be fiscally responsible. We also have to get our arms around these ever-present issues that continue to cost us more money the longer we wait to address them. It's never going to get cheaper. It's never going to get better. It's never going to get easier without our intervention. So time to kind of belly up to the bar now and do the right thing and stop kicking this can down the road. So our displaced priorities is probably as simple and as plain as I can offer an answer to that question.
It makes perfect sense. And I see that the Secretary of Health is also a urologist, and the new president of the AMA is a urologist, and they're backing up. And I know our organization, the AUA, is behind it. So I think that's new too, to have these major medical organizations behind it. I think it's time. It has to be time, Congressman.
Yes. And I feel good about it, and I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't. Of course, you can always challenge me on my hopeless optimism on everything, because I try to find the greatest silver lining in any dark day. But I do believe that tenacity and wisdom will prevail.
We all have to make this priorities for ourselves personally too. So I'm 55. I'm seeing a cardiologist for the first time in my life. I have different health concerns for the first time in my life. And I am thinking of my own monthly budget and what I spend myself personally to keep myself healthy, and not just look towards government funding. It's not going to go right to my bottom line and cost me. This is just, I really appreciate both of you bringing the attention to the everyman to say, you need to prioritize this. And I do believe that this bill will help men realize that it's possible. Paul, do you have any idea, or Congressman, how has the Office of Women's Health in parallel shown success?
My short answer is it's a great example of what you can do with this office.
Right.
And I'll double down on that, because I'll tell you what it's done. It has brought more attention to, even to, and I keep referring to our sisters who are our mothers, our aunts, our daughters, our wives, who, even those who may not have gotten the attention as a young child, and even those who did get the attention as a younger child, now have the ever-present opportunity to have mammograms regularly. Not just their regular feminine checkup, but to go beyond the normal monthly checkup or annual checkup or whatever the process is, but to check for breast cancer, to talk about their mental health, to talk about other issues that, if caught early enough, make a difference. It has been completely a success. Yeah. So much so that I don't know why in the world this wouldn't have been, without any congressman or any legislator. Someone should have said, we got to replicate this for men.
No-brainer, yeah, a no-brainer. I mean, think about it. The Women's Health Initiative worked out the whole hormone replacement issue for women in the last 30 years. It was a Women's Health Initiative sponsored by the Office of Women's Health. Cervical cancer screening got crazy good. The vaccine for HPV vaccine got through. There's been domestic violence acts in Congress because of this. It's just on so many, breast cancer, so many levels. I mean, the Office of Men's Health has coordinated a lot of nonprofits. There are a dozen nonprofits for men's health that are all like siloed right now that would love to have a congressman or someone, a director, to just say, let's get this together. Let's put this. It's awareness. You said first. It's awareness, screening, preventative medicine. On all levels, that office has succeeded and went with women.
You look at the totality of everything. I'll give you a real life example. When I was in the state Senate, I authored and passed legislation around breast cancer, and awareness is the key here. That a woman can go into the hospital in need of a mastectomy, and all mastectomies, to my chagrin, are not created equal. So you can go in, you can get a run-of-the-mill mastectomy that doesn't take into account the fact that you're going to live beyond this, and your femininity is still important to you, and on one side, you can go and have multiple scars, a very quick and easy one that leaves a lot of damage for the woman behind, or one that takes a little bit more time that will have fewer cuts, that will preserve the physical appearance and the emotional scars that women have after having surgery, both of which were covered by insurance but were never told. Mm-hmm. Under my law in Louisiana, now you must inform the patient of their options. And guess what? They're both covered by insurance equally. One doesn't cost nearly as much. Guess who probably gets that more? The poor and uninformed.
That's right.
That's who gets the greater option, those who are educated and those who know enough to do some research. Well, now under my state legislation in Louisiana, both are required to see their options. And now women are having the ability to have their reconstructive surgery done in a more humane way, that they can maintain their femininity and not be scarred mentally as well as physically, because they can do it with minimal sutures as opposed to the one that had much more.
And that's so far down the road from men, that whole thing, and it's so good. But it's like we're just looking for the basics, like get your prostate checked.
But let me tell you, if I've learned anything on this show, it's that not all vasectomies are the same either, right, Paul? And that an angle that I'm hoping that we can use is family building. It's very much a bipartisan, positive message in this country right now is family building. Well, I will tell you that Paul has taught me that my fertility is a biomarker of my health. And so when men and women are they have problems having a family and they go through the medical process of IVF and see people like Paul, I can guarantee you that the women are very interested in the health of the men in their lives because it will help them get a baby and start a family. When I was trying to do that, Congressman, I weighed 325 pounds. The first thing Paul would say to me is, okay, well, there's obviously you're not healthy. I'm probably expecting that your fertility isn't healthy, right? Paul, what would you say to fertility as a biomarker and maybe as an angle that we can get more supporters for men's health?
Oh, I mean, it's no question that women make most of the decisions for men. So an Office of Men's Health would be very attractive to women. And I'm sure that people will know to raise awareness you really work with women. The fact is, men don't live as long as women in America, but coupled men do live as long as women in
Interesting.
America. And it's because the other half, and that could be heterosexual or gay or whatever. It's the coupled men in relationships live as long as women. Men who are not uncoupled do not.
I will tell you, my wife takes the salt shaker out of my hand every day. I'm certain that's accounting for extra days of my life.
That's right.
Sure.
It's interesting to me that in the Affordable Care Act, there was a statement that said women can get free annual preventative measure screenings free every year in that, but there was nothing for men. And that was probably all the Office of Women's Health acting on Congress. It's just an influential thing. It goes through the whole system. It seeps in. And we need that. And it's been so successful.
One of my other measures, Prostate for Men's Act, for HIMS Act, rather, which is co-sponsored by Dr. Dunn, who was a Republican. And it's very basic. It encourages individuals who are in high-risk areas to have easier access to checkups, to removing barriers for people in these high area of risk. Again, a bipartisan measure recognizing that at-risk men can be African American. They could be people who are in greater propensity because of their hereditary issues or their environments, whatever the case. And at the end of the day, it saves the system money on the long run. An ounce of prevention, how does that go, Doc?
Yeah, my pound of cure.
Let's get personal here, because I think that is another leap forward for us, is when people take it personally. Congressman, what sparked this for you? You say your wife takes the salt out of your hands. Is there any family members or you personally or anything that really lit a fire under you to sponsor this bill?
Yeah, just looking at the totality of across the board, the issue that I shared with you about seeing the young man dragging half of his body. And when I say young man, I'm talking about somebody that's in their 30s.
Yeah.
My God, having a stroke at 30 has become much more common than it's ever been before. And again, it's because of unchecked high blood pressure, dietary habits that are poor, lifestyle that's poor, sedentary lifestyle where you aren't exercising, you're not getting out. We've gotten to the age of the Xbox and all those other things, and kids don't get out and play like they used to. When I was a kid, you were only inside if you were sick or punished.
Right.
I've got two sons who are both adults now. One is finishing his last year law school. One is in graduate school. But when they were kids, I had to literally make them get out of the house. You got to go get some sun, man. Come on, let's take a walk around the block. Let's go shoot a few hoops. And it's so weird because as a kid, if I was home, there was something wrong. If I wasn't outside at the crack of dawn or only inside when my parents yelled for me to come in because the street lights had come on, there was something different. So for me, watching what's happening in the community, and I think what probably gave me the greatest push in an area that I'd already been passionate about was COVID. Because COVID unmasked so many disparities. It illuminated how dangerous and powerful the internet and social media is, and how much control it has on individuals, particularly our young people. We saw our young people isolated during COVID. We saw them away from their friends, away from socialization, and all they had was the powerful and the danger of the internet, of social media, of Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all of those other things that typically paint a picture of people being perfect. They got filters on that make your skin perfect and your hair glisten, and you got the white picket fence, and you see people going on vacation with their 2 children and a dog and an SUV, and everything is wonderful, and you're sitting there saying, well, damn, what's wrong with me?
It's true.
And then you realize a lot of that stuff isn't real, but you don't know that looking at it.
That's right.
And we saw the rate of suicide attempts and actual carryouts increased. And we see now it even furthered with things like deepfake and AI and the challenges of people that are being influenced negatively by what could be a very powerful and positive tool, the yin of that yang, where the negative part comes. So as I watched all that develop, I watched communities of the Black and brown and disadvantaged communities getting further and further behind in the healthcare space. I watched the environmental issues of people being exposed to things that others had not or don't have to, and there being no access to healthcare for them. It became evident that this would become my cause to live. And so it has become a part of I've got a whole bunch, but one of the areas that I am particularly working every single day on to bring light and equality to, that every life deserves an opportunity to be saved, prevented, and cared for. And it's a lot easier when you do it on the front end.
All I can say is, Congressman, bravo.
So, Congressman, where is the bill now? What's the general pathway for the bill?
So the bill's been introduced, and typically what happens after introduction, it will be assigned to a committee. Undoubtedly, it will come to the committee that I serve on, which is Energy and Commerce, which has jurisdiction over everything healthcare, everything environment, everything energy, everything communication technology, in this case, healthcare. And so there it will be scheduled for a hearing, scheduled for markup, and then ultimately get to the House floor. My optimism about it ultimately getting the hearing and getting to the House floor is because it is bipartisan.
Yeah.
So this is not one of those bills that will be caught up in the partisan divide of, my way, highway. I don't want you to get credit. I want you to get credit. No, I want me to get credit, and all that foolishness. This is one that everyone gets credit for. And so the likelihood that it gets a hearing and ultimately gets to the floor for a vote is very good.
Oh, that's great news. Great news to hear. Do you think there was less partisan support in the past 9 Congresses that looked at this?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know what the obstacles were, but I will tell you a quick story of what my dear friend, who was the former Speaker of the House of Louisiana House Representatives, who then became the President of the Senate, and one day, me being frustrated over what I thought was a good piece of legislation being killed, this very wise President of the Senate, John Alario, a legend in Louisiana, came over and put his arm around my shoulder and said, "Hey, listen, it's going to be okay," in a very comforting, fatherly tone. And he told me then, good legislation often takes years to pass. Bad legislation passes really fast.
Great answer. We have just a couple more minutes here. Let's say that this bill gets passed, and we're doing an Office of Men's Health for the next 5 years. Paul, what do you see as how that looks?
I would say the first thing would be to consolidate all the nonprofits that have the same philosophy and goals about men, and get them together and get them organized. And I don't know about funding, but they certainly need more awareness. There are screening programs that exist that need to be known about. So probably just billboards, awareness. If we could do that and that's what the Office of Women's Health did. It was a lot of awareness stuff.
Yeah.
I think the bills in Congress come later, but just educating the partners, educating the patients, educating the screening clinics to know that they're calling us up, they want to organize us. Great. If they're not organized, it's like a bunch of kids running around without any leaders. And the leadership of the Office of Women's Health is phenomenal. Breast cancer is 80% curable now. Just changed everything.
There's a playbook, is what you're saying. There's a playbook,
Right.
And we just need to follow it. Congressman, as we're coming to a close here, is there any last words that you would want to say to the people listening today?
First, to Dr. Turek and you and all the organizers, to the advocates and the physicians out there who, they really do the work. You guys do the heavy lifting. We've got the smaller part of this, and that is creating policy that will give you a better shot at doing what you've been trained to do. And for the advocates who give us an opportunity to come on shows like this and talk about it, and of course to the viewers who are listening, it's important that you know that we care. It's important you know that we are doing what we can, albeit not nearly as fast as I'd like to see it happen. But I want to flip the script and just say thank you to all of you, because thank you for helping us tell our story better. Thank you for bringing credibility to what we feel in our hearts, but don't have the academic or professional credentials to defend it. You do. And your voices are so important. And I'm so grateful to have your advocacy lend to our passion and our power of policy. I often tell people that members of Congress, we're just regular people who got elected to Congress based on our academic or passionate concerns. I happen to have spent my entire academic and professional career preparing for public policy because it's what I happen to love. But we don't know everything. Some of us act sometimes like we do, but we don't. We don't get elected and get a box of wisdom or a magic wand, and now we're all knowing. We are not. We get stuff wrong a lot. And we depend on experts like all of you to help us fortify our passion with facts. This will make a difference. That our efforts combined together, this partnership will save lives. And I'm just grateful to have an opportunity to play a small role in making our world a healthier and safer place.
I am all over your vision, Congressman.
Congressman, for our listeners and viewers who want to follow the bill, what should they do? They contact their own representatives to learn more. What do you think is a practical next step for our listeners?
You can contact your own representatives, or you can follow us along any of our social media platforms at Rep Troy Carter, at Prop Rep Troy Carter, and you can go to our website, troy.carter@house.gov, sign up for our newsletter, and we will be happy to add you to our list, and we'll send you regular updates on where the bill is, where it's going, how you might be able to get involved, make phone calls, send text messages, call your individual members of Congress, House and Senate, encourage them to sign on, become co-authors, help us get this thing over the goalposts.
And you can, of course, watch, listen, and follow us here at Talk with Turek on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, Amazon Music. We're here as advocates. Paul and I, a couple years ago, we were together, and we were like, somebody has to advocate on a different level for men's health. And yes, we have a niche in fertility, but I think that is a key pillar to men's health. And I'm very grateful to both of you for leading the way in your different fields. Paul, any last words?
Men are people too.
Men are people too.
Thanks for joining the Talk with Turek podcast with hosts Paul Turek and Rob Clyde. Talk with Turek is produced and recorded in South Pasadena, California, in association with Galaxy Media Ventures. Executive producers are Jennifer Harris and Rob Clyde. Today's episode was produced by Max Flora, engineered and edited by Drew Unser. For more information or to book an appointment, whether in person or virtual, visit Dr. Turek online at theturekclinic.com or call 888-TUREK-MD. That's 888-887-3563. Subscribe to our show wherever you listen to podcasts and watch us on YouTube at Talk with Turek. And thanks for helping us advocate for men's fertility and sexual health.